Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Mad Meta Magic, where we try to make the magic meta mad. Now, for those of you that recognize this deck, I did play this on stream. We brewed this on stream. I had a white Tron list submitted to me, but I was really struggling to make the deck work, and I'm not going to be able to make it work without some significant changes, so I'm playing this today instead. Pop quiz, what does Collected Conjuring look like to you? It's 4 mana, it lets you get 2 things, 3 CMC or less, that are instants or sorceries out of your deck, basically. If you said Collected Company, you're wrong. Plow Under is an acceptable comparison, because if you hit 2 Stone Rains off of this, it's a double Stone Rain. The correct answer to the pop quiz is Time Stretch. And so the idea behind this deck is we hit Savor the Moment to take an extra turn but not untap, and we hit Stitch in Time. And 50% of the time, Stitch in Time is Time Walk. And the other 50% of the time, it's nothing. It's a prowess trigger at most. So how are we taking advantage of this? How is this being a blue-red Time Warp deck? Because this is very janky. This is a very silly deck. The first thing is we're playing Ancestral Visions because it's an excellent card advantage engine that doesn't take any mana once you suspend it. It's also really easy to hit off of Collected Conjuring, draw you a ton of cards. We're only playing sorceries because Collected Conjuring only hits sorceries. So we have Serum Visions as our cantrip of choice. It's just the most text that has draw a card for 1 mana on it. We have Firebolt as our removal of choice, as sometimes we do need to flash back it for the burn just to get a little extra reach. We have Eye of Nowhere, which is our 2 mana Time Warp versus decks that are slower. We just bounce a land, or we hit it off of Collected Conjuring and bounce problematic permanents this way. As Foretold is our primary method of generating advantage through extra turns. It lets us cast Ancestral Visions from our hand, which is very important, because otherwise it can be a dead card if we can't wait for it to come off of Suspend. It also can tick up to the point that we're casting, Savor the Moments and Stitch in Times for free, which is fantastic. In the 4-drop slot, besides Collected Conjuring, we have our other ways to take advantage of our extra turns. We have Rawl Storm Conduit, who has a down-tick ability to fork the next spell you cast. So if you fork Collected Conjuring, you're casting 4 spells out of the top 12 cards of your deck. You can fork Savor the Moment, take literally just Time Stretch and be upticking the whole time. And Rawl has the new Magecraft mechanic from Strixhaven that whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 1 damage to your opponent or planeswalker they control. He could scry and manipulate your top decks. He's an excellent planeswalker. Split with Rawl, we have another planeswalker that can also fork spells, which is Chandra the Firebrand. Slightly easier to cast. The main reason that we're playing this instead of a third Rawl is because there are times we can have both on board. We can fork with one and fork with the other and get a triple spell. It also helps play around Pithing Needle effects. If they Pithing Needle Rawl, we can still, have the fork card advantage kind of a thing. And we also have Chandra Torch of Defiance, which will help draw us extra cards, get us mana on turns that we don't untap, remove creatures, and ultimately win the game if we ult her. And in the 5-drop slot, we have Time Warps. We're only playing 2 because it doesn't synergize with Collected Conjuring, but occasionally we need an extra turn where we untap for mana. And yeah, nothing special about the mana base, really, other than we have a Singleton Gemstone Caverns on the off chance that we need to ramp early and we happen to be on the draw. Out of the sideboard, we have Defense Grid, which is an excellent anti-counterspell hate spell for decks that want to take extra turns, because the more turns you take, the more that this is working in your favor rather than against it. It also frees up a bunch of slots, we don't need to be playing counter spells, we can just play Defense Grid and everything's fine. Shatter Spree is a sorcery that destroys artifacts. It has Replicate, so that we can pay extra mana if we need to destroy more artifacts. It's a very efficient spell. Aria of Flame is good versus Death Shadow and can also kill your opponent very quickly when you're just casting a bunch of sorceries for free. Blood Moon for, Tron, other decks that want to play special lands. We have tons of islands, so we can get around playing Blood Moon. We also have Anger of the Gods as our sweeper of choice, and versus Control, we have Big Mama Chandra, 6 mana, uncounterable, tons of abilities, win the game Chandra. So, without any further ado, I think I'm ready to go ahead and take this into a constructed league. Now, this deck, I know what you're thinking. I know exactly what you're thinking. You're thinking Kano. Why on earth are you playing these horrible time warps? This deck is not going to work. You know, just the last time we played this, we won 6 out of our 7 first flips with Stitch in Time, and we almost 3-2'd. We 2-3'd. We were very close. It came down to the final match. So hopefully this deck will also perform this time. We'll see. And I will see you all in round 1. I've already spent a long time in queue. Maybe nobody wants to play with me. Alright, we get to be on the play for round 1. This is not a keepable hand. We will mulligan. This is very slow, but does have some potential. I think we still mulligan to 5. Alright. 5 it is. So I think we keep 3 lands as foretold, and, well, I'm going to put back Gemstone Caverns, because it's not helpful here. I could keep 2 lands, Rahl, as foretold, Serum Visions, but that seems ambitious. I think I gotta put back Rahl. So, fetch with Scalding Tarn, get a Steam Vents, and lead on Serum Visions. We draw Collected Conjuring. Scalding Tarn to the bottom, Steam Vents to the bottom. I would like to get an Eye of Nowhere this next turn if possible. Otherwise we should, in theory, draw enough lands. Okay, savor the moment. Play Scalding Tarn, pass the turn. I'm going to shuffle that Scry. Hopefully that doesn't make too much of a difference. Okay, opponent fetches up a Ralgrin Triome, so they are either 5-color or Jeskai control, maybe? Snow-covered Mountain. Alright, on my opponent's end step, we'll fetch with Scalding Tarn, get another Steam Vents. Okay, best top deck I think is Ancestral. We draw Fiery Islet, play an island. Play as foretold. This probably gets countered. Gets remanded, okay? Opponent untaps. So this is an opponent we're bringing in Defense Grid against. They play Scalding Tarn, correct Scalding Tarn. They get an island. They play Teferi Time Raveler, completely shutting off our Collected Conjuring. What a jerk. We draw Fiery Islet, play Fiery Islet. And if I play as foretold, they literally just... lame. They just bounce as foretold. Yeah, Teferi Time Raveler is a problem for this deck, simply because Collected Conjuring now does nothing. And this is one of the main reasons we want to be playing our deck, too. Alright, I am ready for your Disperse. Man, why is it gotta be a Disperse and draw? That's so powerful. Yep. Okay. We untap. We draw Chandra. So, play Fiery Islet. See if we can't draw the counter spell with As Foretold. If we have to choose between one of our spells getting countered, it's Chandra. We want to have Chandra resolve. Okay, put a mana leaks. We can't pay for it. Pass the turn. Okay, put a Cracks Flooded Strand. Shocks Hollowed Fountain. And plays an Omen of the Sea. They go Scrying, untap. Uptick Teferi to 3. They're tapping out for something? Felidar Guardian. Okay, so they're Felidar Guardian combo. And they're Flickering Omen of the Sea here. This tells me that they probably have Force of Negation, which is what they're going to use to counter our Chandra here. I think we'd need very good top decks to stop this from happening. Opponent plays a Hollowed Fountain tapped. Passes. We untap. Draw Scalding Tarn. So, play Scalding Tarn. Crack Scalding Tarn. Get a basic island. Play Chandra. Yep, there's the Force of Negation. Pitching Force of Negation. Okay, pass the turn. Uptick Teferi to 4. They play Saheeli Rai, and that's game. Alright. So versus my opponent's deck, I think I want Defense Grid, Big Chandra, and I kind of want Blood Moon. Their mana base is a little bit greedy. We're going to cut Collected Conjuring in its entirety. It's just never going to do anything versus our opponent, which is quite awful for us, in all honesty. I'm going to cut 1 Chandra the Firebrand, 1 Ancestral Visions, because even though it's a very strong spell, it does nothing in the face of Teferi. Like, literally, it does nothing. Then I'm going to cut, I think, an Eye of Nowhere and a Stitch in Time. And we'll try it like this. Actually, on the play, Eye of Nowhere seems better than Firebolt. Alright. I would like to play first. You know, we have Blood Moon, multiple As Fortolds. This might get us somewhere. I think we still mulligan, though. Oh, this is way worse. I shouldn't have. Okay. We'll keep this. I'll put back Savor the Moment and Stitch in Time. Start Scalding Tarn, pass the turn. I'm going to fetch an island on my opponent's end step because I don't want to... I don't want to draw any more lands. Unfortunately, they played an Eye of Nowhere proof land. Play an island, pass the turn. Opponent fetches. Gets a Raugrin Triome. Untaps. Plays a Flooded Strand. We untap and draw Chandra. Cast Eye of Nowhere. This should force them to counter, at least. Flusterstorm. Okay. Play Steam Vents tapped, pass the turn. Opponent cracks Flooded Strand. Alright, they're leaving up mana. So start Serum Visions. We draw land. Scalding Tarn to the bottom, Firebolt to the bottom. Play Scalding Tarn. Attempt another Eye of Nowhere. Hey, it worked this time. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps, replays Raugrin Triome. So now we fetch up another Steam Vents, untap, draw Fiery Islet. We can't play around Mana Leak or Remand, so let's Stitch in Time. They're not going to counter this. There's almost zero chance they counter this. They're going to go, oh, he's going to lose the flip. It's not worth wasting the counter spell on. Then we're going to top deck another land and cast an uncounterable Gigantic Chandra. That's the plan. Oh, they are going to counter this. I guess if it's a remand, then that's fine. Then they don't lose anything in the exchange, really. They're still thinking about it, though. Okay, they do Mana Leak. Play Fiery Islet, pass the turn. Now we just need 1 mana for big, uncounterable Chandra. Opponent plays an island. We untap. We draw Blood Moon. Play Blood Moon. They went and got all their basics this time, though. So this may not actually harm them in any way. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Hollowed Fountain. I think they're holding the combo. They play Saheeli Rai. Uptick. Shoot us for 1. We need to draw a land so we can Chandra and kill Saheeli. Defense Grid doesn't do it. Play Defense Grid, pass the turn. But we're just dead to Felidar Guardian. They flash in a Snapcaster for no value. Opponent untaps. So, opponent clones the Snapcaster Mage to have access to a counterspell before playing Felidar Guardian and having infinite Felidar Guardians. Unfortunately, we just lose. Alright, I'll see you guys in round 2. Alright, I will be keeping this. I think we exile Savor the Moment to Gemstone Caverns here. It does let our opponent know what's happening, though. They're on Tron, so in theory we should be okay. Especially if we get any of the Eye of Nowheres that are in our deck. We draw Ancestral Visions, Island to the bottom, Firebolt to the bottom, Suspend Ancestral, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play their Eldrazi Tron, okay, and they have no 3-drop. Ancestral ticking down. We draw Fiery Islet. Play an island. Time for the luck test. Stitch in Time. Tails never fails. We won the flip. Extra turn time. Untap. Ancestral Vision's ticking down. We draw Firebolt. Play a mountain. Pass the turn. Opponent finally gets to crack Expedition Map. They get a Cavern of Souls. Joke's on you, I don't play counter spells. Although a Thought Knot here would be quite annoying. because we don't have 6 mana, so we can't cast and then flashback Firebolt. Though they can take Time Warp, and I recommend they do. They do. We untap. Ancestral Vision's ticking down to 1. We draw Stitch in Time. So, cast Stitch in Time. Tails never fails. We won the flip. Excellent. Next turn. Oh, we untap. Ancestral Vision's coming off Suspend. Target ourself. We draw As Foretold, and savor the moment. We also get an Eye of Nowhere. So play an island. Play As Foretold. And I'm going to Eye of Nowhere, I think. No, I'm going to savor the moment. We need to get as many counters on As Foretold as we can. We can only cast Firebolt next turn, but that's okay. We untap. We draw Ancestral Visions, which is just amazing. Ancestral Visions ourself. We draw another Ancestral Visions. Okay, pass the turn. See, this is what we wanted to be doing. Opponent untaps. Next turn we'll have all of our mana untapped and available to us. My opponent plays Matter Reshaper. Hits us for 4, that's fine. We go to 5. Untap, As Foretold, uptick to 2. We draw a Time Warp. Let's see. So let's Ancestral Visions, draw cards. Okay. Serum Visions, draw and scry. Maybe I should have done that first to try and hit a land. Okay, put these on the bottom. Time Warp, target ourself. Next turn, we untap. We have all of our mana. As Foretold ticks up to 3. We draw Castle Vantress. Play the castle. Cast As Foretold with As Foretold. Then let's Collected Conjuring. See what we hit, if anything. Savor the moment and Firebolt. So Firebolt, Matter Reshaper. Cast Savor the moment. So take an extra turn. Matter Reshaper down. Matter Reshaper trigger. Karn, Great Creator, they get to draw. So we get a turn next turn, but we don't get an untap step. So let's Serum Visions. We draw Chandra. Raw Storm Conduit on top. Oh, actually, that's not how I should have done that. Okay. Savor the moment on top. Eye of Nowhere, bounce. Thought Not Seer. So we draw, savor the moment. Pass the turn. Yeah, I should have stacked those the other way so I could guaranteed hit an extra turn off of my next As Foretold. Okay. So what we have to do now, I think, is... No, I could savor the moment here. Cast Savor the Moment with As Foretold. I just sequenced this slightly incorrect. Cast Firebolt. Next turn, we untap. As Foretold's ticking up. We draw Chandra. Okay, so... Cast with As Foretold. Fork. Cast with As Foretold. Bounce all their lands. We'll bounce a couple of their lands anyway. So, bounce Cavern. Bounce Eldrazi Temple. Pass the turn. Now we have an active Planeswalker. And next turn we'll have access to all of our mana again. And we can double fork Collected Conjuring. Opponent plays a Matter Reshaper. And I don't think that's going to be enough. We untap. As Foretold's ticking up. We draw another Chandra. So I'm not going to double fork here. I think just scrying with Rawl is actually better. So let's plus to scry. Fiery Islet to the bottom. Cast with As Foretold. Fork. Then we cast Collected Conjuring. Alright. I think I'm just going to save targets. Well, I can't, because I've already auto-yielded. Collected Conjuring. Number 1. We'll hit Ancestral Visions, draw cards. Then we'll cast Stitch in Time. Ping our opponent twice. Okay, Tails never fails. We won the flip. Oh, this is so mean. Second Collected Conjuring. Eye of Nowhere. Bounce Matter Reshaper. Ping our opponent. Play a Steam Vents. Untapped. Cast Chandra, Torch of Defiance. We already have another extra turn in queue. Then we uptick Chandra to deal damage. Cast with As Foretold. Ping our opponent. Draw a card. Go scrying. Island to the bottom. Eye of Nowhere to the top. Next turn. Oh, man. Yep. We draw. Eye of Nowhere. So, uptick Chandra for damage. Firebolt. We don't have to... We don't have to cast Firebolt. It's effectively the same mana-wise. Fork mode with Rawl. Cast with As Foretold. We'll just bounce all their lands. Ping them again. Yep. Ping them again. Uptick, deal damage. Yeah. Cast Stitch in time. Ping our opponent. And Tails never fails. Heads, we lost the flip. You know what? I'm okay with losing that one. I can flashback Firebolt and then cast Chandra and kill them? Oh man, the flawless victory. The flawless victory. Opponent has no permanence. It's turn 12 for some reason. That was the meanest thing we've done to someone in a very long time. I'm going to bring in Shattering Sprees for this matchup because I guarantee you that they have Chalice of the Void and we're going to need them to be able to answer it. Blood Moon is tempting and actually probably quite decent. The question is it better than what we already have going on? Because Eye of Nowhere is actually really strong versus our opponent. Just being able to unsummon basically anything is very good. I don't think I'm going to bring in Blood Moon. I think I'm just going to stick to Shattering Spree. And I'm going to cut a Firebolt and I think a Serum Visions for him. Alright, this is a mulligan. This is a keep. I'm going to put back Firebolt. Okay, opponent starts Eldrazi Temple. We untap and draw Chandra. So, play Fiery Islet. Cast a Serum Visions. We draw As Foretold. There's an Ancestral Visions on top. I think we want both of these cards. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They do have the second Temple for the turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer. That's pretty strong. I think my opponent should probably take As Foretold or Chandra here, depending on what else is in their hand. They take the As Foretold. So we untap. Draw Ancestral Visions. I am going to suspend it. Play Scalding Tarn. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play Urza's Power Plant. Go to combat. Hit us for 4. We go to 14. I'm glad they didn't have a Reality Smasher. That would have been very bad. They play Chalice on 0 like a jerk. Then they play Matter Reshaper. So, Scalding Tarn. Get a Steam Vents tapped. We untap. Ancestral Visions ticking down. We draw Collected Conjuring. I am going to play Savor the Moment as an Explorer here. In theory, it gets better if we could wait until we could get Chandra out, but we really need to draw another land. Oh, you know what? I shuffled away the land I put on top. Like a moron. We untap. Ancestral Visions ticks down to 2. I may also just be dead to a Reality Smasher. We draw an island. Play an island. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Opponent plays a tower. We go to 4. Opponent plays a Karn. Wishes. They wish for Trinisphere. Okay. Well, we gotta have some pretty good running here for this to work. We draw Stitch in time. So we're gonna Collected Conjuring. Big problem is our pain lands. Ancestral Visions, Eye of Nowhere. So cast Ancestral, target ourself. Bounce Chalice of the Void. They still counter the Ancestral, though. And we concede. Okay. On to game 3. If we had cast Stitch in time, it would have just ended poorly anyway. Run it back. I would like to play first. This'll work. We'll keep. Opponent shouldn't be able to do anything other than maybe play Chalice on 0 on turn 1, and we can Eye of Nowhere their land to get an extra turn. I am going to fetch and shock to begin with. Serum Visions. We get a Mountain, Chandra, and Stitch. I think I keep both of these, actually. Pass the turn. Opponent plays an Urza's Mine, then passes. We untap, draw Stitch, play an island, Eye of Nowhere, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays an Urza's Mine, plays Chalice on 0. We untap, draw Chandra, play a Mountain, play As Foretold, pass the turn. They can't play Thought-Knot Seer next turn, so I'm comfortable doing this because they can't take our Chandra from us. They play another Tron land. Hopefully this is not a Chalice on 1. Okay, it's Ballista on 1. We untap. As Foretold ticks up to 1. We draw Shatter Spree. Okay, so cast Serum Visions with As Foretold. We draw Rawl. I think I want to draw both of these cards, and in that order. So cast Stitch in time. Tails never fails. Heads, we lost the flip. Okay. Pass the turn. So now it's a little bit of an issue if my opponent plays Thought Not Seer, though not terribly so, because we do have an active As Foretold, and we have 2 really good threats. If they have Karn and can wish for Trinisphere, we might be in trouble. Okay. We take 1. We can Shatter Spree both of our opponent's artifacts here. I layered the cards in... Oh, no, I did it right. Okay. So what I can do is I can play Fiery Islet, and I can Shatter Spree, hitting Chalice, replicating it once. That's not right. Unless Replicate is part of the cost of casting, at which point I think I did this wrong. Anyway, we'll take out Trinisphere, we'll take out Chalice. Next turn we draw Stitch in Time, so I could play Chandra, Upticker, and then Stitch. Unless my opponent wishes for Coding or has a second Trinisphere in their sideboard. So they exile our grave, they wish... Oh, they're re-wishing for Trinisphere is what it is, okay. They play an Urza's Tower. They hit us for 1, they play Matter Reshaper. Okay, I didn't actually anticipate that being a thing. So we untap, we draw Stitch in Time. I think we just Stitch, because we really need another land. Okay, Stitch in Time. Tails never fails. We lost the flip again. Oh, great. Okay, pass the turn. Opponent has tons of mana. They uptick Karn. Opponent plays a new Karn. They wish. They get Sorceress Spyglass. So if they play Spyglass, they'll name Chandra. They get a Blast Zone. I guess they could also name Ral. Although naming Ral... No, I think my opponent having the ability to exile that Trinisphere and pick it back up again is probably what's going to do it here. Opponent plays a Matter Reshaper. Hits us for 4. We go to 11. Because we're going to be dead very shortly to my opponent just upticking this Walking Ballista. I have a problem with wish effects grabbing stuff out of exile. Okay, so we can play Chandra, it just doesn't do anything. If I cast this with As Foretold, it technically reduces the cost by 1. We get to Scry. Put Island on top, pass the turn. We need to be able to cast Time Warp to win. So, are we just dead? I think they have enough mana that they can just tick up Walking Ballista and kill us. If they play a land, they can tick him up 3 times, they hit us for 10, then shoot us for 1. Yeah. So the only way we survive this turn is if my opponent throws. They get Liquid Metal Coating, they play Coating, they hit us for 9, presumably? Yep. Alright. I'll see you guys in round 3. Hey, we got a really sick combo kill, though. I'm pretty stoked about that. Alright, we will be on the draw for round 3. We have a Firebolt, and if we get another land, we have multiple Eye of Nowhere, so I'm actually going to try keeping this. I think a good name for this deck is 50% of the time, it works every time. And we're against Tron! Alright, we untap, we draw Stitch in Time, which is not a land. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a tower. Alright, we really need this blue source, or life is not going to be a fun time. Oh, it's not a blue source! Play Gemstone Caverns, pass the turn. Who knows, maybe they don't have a threat. Oh, there's no way this works out for us now. The one colorless source in the deck. The one of 3 non-blue sources in the deck. Alright, they've assembled Tron. They play a Power Plant. They play Karn Great Creator. They wish. They get Relic of Progenitus? I don't know about that one. Fetch with Scalding Tarn. We are going to try and play this out. It's just not going to work out well for us, I think. Okay. They exile our Scalding Tarn. We untap. We draw Ancestral Visions. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and concede now. So versus my opponent, I'm going to bring in Shatter Spree. And I am going to bring in Blood Moon. I'm going to go down... See, we'll be on the play, so Eye of Nowhere actually gets way better. I'm going to cut a few Firebolts here. Like 3 of them, a Serum Visions, and 1 Ancestral. Well, no, Ancestral's like pretty critical to the deck working. I'm going to cut a Savor the Moment, or Stitch in Time, not Savor the Moment. And we'll try it again like this. Alright, we will get to be on the play. You know what? Sure. If opponent starts turn 1 Expedition map, we can Shatter Spree it. We'll have Blood Moon on turn 3. Start Island, just to confuse him. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Power Plant into an Expedition map. Aha, got him! Draw Fiery Islet. Shatter Spree replicated 0 times. Pass the turn. Opponent play... They're Eldrazi Tron? Really? Is this the same person? It's not. Why did it have to be Eldrazi Tron? Play an island. Play Blood Moon. Pass the turn. No Thought Knots for you. Opponent plays an Urza's Mine into a Maze Mine Tome. That's pretty good. They hit us for 3. We untap. Draw Fiery Islet. Play Fiery Islet. Play Rahl. Uptick Rahl. As foretold to the bottom. Pass the turn. Opponent scries. Sure. They untap. They play a Mind Stone, so they will have Thought Knot Seer mana next turn. They play Chalice on 1. Little do they know, Chalice on 0 is actually way better. We untap. We draw Ancestral Visions. So, downtick Rahl. Collected Conjuring. Save targets, always yield. Okay, copy Collected Conjuring. Now, in theory, we get to cast a whole bunch of spells this turn. I'm going to... Ooh. Ancestral Visions, myself, and Savor the Moment. Ping my opponent twice. So we get to take an extra turn, draw a bunch of cards, then Collected Conjuring. Shattering Spree, but we can't replicate, so let's... Ooh, actually, Eye of Nowhere, Matter Reshaper, another Savor the Moment. So we have 2 extra turns coming up, we just can't untap during either. Play an island. Now I could suspend Ancestral, but I think we're going to need the untapped mana. We need to try and scry into a 3rd land drop, I think. There's a Stitch in Time. Uptick Rahl. Serum Visions to the bottom. Play Fiery Islet. Next turn, we draw Blood Moon. Uptick Rahl. Time Warp, I'm putting on top of the deck. Pass the turn. And I think it's my opponent's turn now. They scry. Okay, they get to untap. They have 4 mana. They can play a Thought Knot Seer, but Thought Knot Seer by itself is not enough here. That much I can tell you for sure. We have 2 different quote-unquote Time Warp spells. We have Time Warp on top of our deck. So if my opponent has a Thought Knot Seer, their best take is Chandra, Torch of Defiance, by far. I think they would regret taking anything else. They take Chandra, okay. We untap. Draw Time Warp. Downtick Rahl. Time Warp, target ourself. Actually, Time Stretch. So we ping our opponent. Game's over. Alright, so because they are actually Eldrazi, I definitely sideboarded incorrectly, I think. I'm going to cut an Ancestral and bring a Firebolt back in. We'll try it like that. We're going to need those Shatter Sprees for Chalices. This hand is okay. Hopefully it's enough, really. Opponent starts Urza's Mine. We untap. Draw Castle Vantress. Play an island. Serum Visions. We draw Eye of Nowhere. Savor the Moment. Savor the Moment. We already have 2 Stitches in Time. I think we put these on the bottom. I'm going to shuffle so that those are in our deck, though. So opponent untaps. Their best play is like Eldrazi Temple Matter Reshaper. The opponent plays Mind Stone. Alright. We untap. Draw Scalding Tarn. Scalding Tarn. Fetch. Get a Steam Vents untapped. Eye of Nowhere, the Urza's Tower. And the reason we're doing this and not the Mind Stone that they in theory would have to replay is because they might already have Tron in hand. And if they do, we are in trouble. Opponent has a Maze Mind Tome. Chalice on 0 this time. Okay. We untap. We draw a Fiery Islet. Play an island. Stitch in Time. Tails never fails. Heads, we lose the flip. Damn it. Pass the turn. Oh, we're so screwed now. Opponent plays an Urza's Tower, which is not Tron. They take our only card out of hand. So Chandra, Torch of Defiance would be a pretty amazing top deck. Rahl, Storm Conduit, I think counts. So play Scalding Tarn, fetch up a basic island, play Rahl, scry, Scalding Tarn to the bottom, pass the turn. Opponent scries with Maze Mind Tome. They untap. They scry again on their upkeep. They're really looking for that last Tron land. They play Karn. They animate Maze Mind Tome. They can actually kill Rahl this way. That sucks. We untap. Draw Ancestral Visions. Play Fiery Islet. Cash it in. Suspend Ancestral. We are suspending it just in case they can take another card from our hand somehow. But I'm pretty sure my opponent just wishes for Trinisphere again, and we're done. Okay. So Tron's assembled. They're wishing for Sundering Titan? Yeah, that's game. There's no way that's not game. Uh-huh. Get hit for 4, and we're dead next turn. We untap, Ancestral taking down, draw Firebolt, and that does nothing. Alright. We've been playing against some pretty bad matchups, but also, I'm not sure if this deck does have good matchups. I'll see you guys around 4. Alrighty, we're on the draw for round 4. His hand is alright, we'll keep. See what we're up against. Opponent starts Basic Plains into Soul Warden, alright. We draw Savor the Moment. Play Serum Visions, we draw a Mountain. Yeah, I'm gonna leave Stitch in Time on top. Pass the turn. So my opponent gaining a bunch of life is, in theory, actually a huge problem, because we win via damage. Opponent plays Ugin's Conjurant. Okay, so they are actually the Kirin deck that blows up lands, I think? Play Scalding Tarn, pass the turn. Opponent goes to combat, attacks us for 3. Yep. Fetch up Steam Vents, we untap. Draw Savor the Moment. Play an island. Cast As Foretold. Pass the turn. Man, maybe we should be playing Restore Balance in this deck. I think it'd be very silly, but might actually be worth it. They hit us for 3. As Foretold ticks up to 1. Play Scalding Tarn. Stitch in Time. Tails. We won the flip. Perfect. So fetch up Steam Vents. Next turn, we untap. As Foretold up to 2. We draw Eye of Nowhere. So bounce a Plains. Play a Mountain. Time Warp. Next turn, untap. As Foretold up to 3. We draw an island. Play an island. Cast Savor the Moment. Next turn, As Foretold up to 4. We draw Serum Visions. Cast Serum Visions. We draw Collected Conjuring. Savor the Moment and Ancestral Visions. Savor the Moment on top. Ancestral Visions on top of Savor the Moment. So we draw... Oh, shoot! I meant to cast Savor the Moment. Oh, no! I totally forgot there was something else I was supposed to do that turn. Opponent plays a Plains. Hits us for 3. What if they have a memory lapse? Yep. Chamber Sentry. Opponent gains a life. I think they meant to cast that as a 1-drop. As Foretold, taken up to 5. We draw Ancestral Visions. You know what? Cast Collected Conjuring. Ancestral Visions ourself. Cast Savor the Moment. Play an island. Next turn. No need to spend that mana there, I think. As Foretold ticks up. We draw Gemstone Caverns. Draw 3 cards. We get Chandra and Savor the Moment. So play Gemstone Caverns. Play Chandra. Uptick for mana. Time Warp ourself. Next turn, we untap. As Foretold, ticking up. We draw Firebolt. Uptick for damage. Cast Rawl with As Foretold. Downtick. Savor the Moment. Save targets, always yield. Always yield. Extra turns abound. Firebolt our opponent. Play Castle Vantress. Firebolt our opponent. Whoop, need red mana. Alright, next turn, we untap. As Foretold, ticking up. We draw Serum Visions. Play Scalding Tarn. Fetch for an island. Uptick to Scry. Chandra to the bottom. Uptick for damage. Eye of Nowhere. We're not casting it. Cast Savor the Moment. Untap. As Foretold, ticking up. We draw Fiery Islet. Play Fiery Islet. Alt Chandra. Fork Ralzeric. Cast Stitch in Time. Opponent scoops. Alright, we got there. Anger, and I think we need Aria Flame. I think we actually need Aria Flame to win this game. The question is, what are we taking out? It's probably Torch of Defiance, actually, because her win condition, like, her ult is going to be too slow if my opponent gains too much life. Then I'm going to cut I think, a Stitch in Time and 1 Collected Conjuring and 1 Eye of Nowhere. No, I'm going to cut the other Eye of Nowhere and keep the Collected Conjuring in the deck. Alright, I can keep this. Opponent starts Forest, Avacyn's Pilgrim. We draw Aria of Flame, Firebolt the Pilgrim, just in case they're playing a 3-drop this turn, or they need it for the white mana. Opponent plays a Plains, plays a Vessel of Nascency. Alright, this is definitely a budget deck. Play an island, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Plains. They play Altar of the Brood, activate Vessel of Nascency, so they take the other Vessel. We untap, draw Serum Visions, play a Fiery Islet, play As Foretold, pass the turn. Opponent has a Return to Nature to kill As Foretold. Second Altar of the Brood, mills us for an island. Well, play As Foretold, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Opponent plays a Vessel using their only green mana. As Foretold ticks up to 1. We draw an island. So, let's see. Play Aria of Flame. Opponent gains 10. Cast Serum Visions with As Foretold. Save targets, always yield. We draw an island. Land to the bottom, land to the bottom. Play island. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Cracks Vessel of Nascency. They find an Endless one, but they probably don't have the mana to... Okay, they cast Endless one. We untap, As Foretold up to 2. We draw Ancestral Visions, so play an island. Draw 3 cards. Shoot our opponent. A second Aria of Flame? I don't think that's worth it. Cast Savor. Next turn. As Foretold up to 3. We draw As Foretold. Now I can take a risk and Ancestral Visions here, but I don't think that's actually necessary. We'll just savor the moment again. Next turn. As Foretold up to 4. We draw Fiery Islet. So play Fiery Islet. Collected Conjuring. Shoot our opponent for 5. We're going to be doing 6 and then 7. So I think if we just Firebolt and Ancestral, we win. Yep. Alright. Well, we beat a budget deck. This deck is definitely not budget, so I'll see you guys in round 5. Alright, we will be on the draw for round 5. I think this is okay. Turn 1 Serum Visions, turn 2 we can Boomerang a land. Opponent starts Arid Mesa, so this might be Burn. Blood Crypt. Could be Luris Burn, but it also could just be Death Shadow. We're getting Thought Seized. Opponent probably takes Eye of Nowhere, I imagine. To take Chandra, okay. We untap, draw an island, play an island, Serum Visions. We draw Chandra, Gemstone Caverns to the bottom, Ral to the top. Pass the turn. Opponent plays an Arid Mesa, fetches, shocks to 12. Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. Okay, I'm going to discard Savor the Moment. I don't want to lose any life yet. We untap, we draw Ral, play an island, Boomerang a land. Pass the turn. Opponent shocks the Blood Crypt, Thought Seizes again. Takes Torch of Defiance. They play Death Shadow as a 5/5. We draw Stitch in Time. Alright, it's time, Stitch in Time. Tails never fails. We won the flip. Untap. We draw Ancestral Visions. Play Fiery Islet. There's like no way Ral survives to next turn. Because my opponent can guaranteed lose 1 life somehow. Steam Vents to the bottom, pass the turn. Though my opponent may swing at Ral, which I guess is a Fog. Opponent plays Bauble. Cracks Bauble. Plays a Bloodstained Mire. Cracks Bloodstained Mire. Gets a Swamp. So Death Shadow is enough to kill Ral. They Night's Whisper, and they play a second Death Shadow. They gotta attack and kill Ral here. Like, the ability for us to have a fork if we have, like, a Time Warp is just too great. Yeah. Alright. Ral down. We untap. They draw a card. We draw Ancestral Visions. Cycle. Yeah, that's game. Alright. We do have a plan for this. It's not a great plan, but we do have a plan. And that plan is Aria Flame. We're gonna cut Chandra, Torch of Defiance, Chandra the Firebrand, and 1 Ancestral Vision. Try it like this. Actually, we should probably cut Stitch in Time and keep the Ancestral in the deck. Our opponent is an opponent. We can actually just suspend Ancestral if we get it on turn 1. Alright, this is not a good opener. We're mulliganing. This, on the other hand, I can make work. Let me see what my opponent did. They kept 7, so I'm actually going to put back Aria of Flame here. We can't cast it, and I would rather have it in the pocket if we needed it. So start by suspending Ancestral, pass the turn. If my opponent Thoughtseizes and has to take a Serum Visions, that's not the greatest Thoughtseize in the world. So opponent starts Bloodstained Mire, fetches, shocks, plays a Bombat Courier, okay. Hits us for 1. We go to 19, untap, Ancestral ticks down to 3. We draw Aria of Flame, cast Serum Visions, we draw a Firebolt, Conjuring to the bottom. I think I do want to draw As Foretold, because that gives me something to do next turn regardless, and it's a permanent type that my opponent can't necessarily deal with. If we actually get a Time Warp off after that, we may actually win this game. Opponent fetches and shocks, down to 14. Double red for Swift Spear, Swift Spear. So they're going to hit us for 3, exiling another card. We untap, we draw As Foretold. Ancestral Vision's ticking down to 2. Play an island. Play As Foretold. Pass the turn. Now, we might need this Firebolt in order to live. So if my opponent hits us with Hand Hate here or just has a ton of prowess triggers, we're probably going to lose. Ideally, we draw something we can cast using only blue mana and get to Firebolt a threat here. Opponent plays a Marsh Flats, fetches, shocks Blood Crypt, and lightning bolts our face. So we're getting hit for a ton of damage here. Going to 4. I think we need either a mountain and win this Stitch in Time flip, or we need... I don't think that does it. So Firebolt, Swift Spear, Eye of Nowhere, Swift Spear, pass the turn. I think we're dead. Okay, opponent draws a card for turn, plays a Swift Spear, plays a Bomat Courier. Yeah, we're dead. Oh, what a disappointing end of the league. We were close, so this deck is not good. The only match we won was a match we were basically expected to win. However, I want to say that this is probably the only deck, maybe one of 3 possible decks. Well, I'll be generous. This is one of 3 possible decks that Collected Conjuring is good in. If our first round opponent was not playing 3-mana Teferi, or similar, you can only cast spells at sorcery speed, we would have had much more game against them. I mean, we don't really care because most of our spells we cast at sorcery speed anyway, but our card advantage spell in the form of Ancestral Visions, coming off Suspend, not being able to cast, sucks, and Collected Conjuring becoming a dead card in our deck, that's a big strike against this deck. Because 3-mana Teferi is so prevalent and just so strong, I stand by the fact that that card should never have been printed, and I don't know why that card is still legal, because it's not a fun card to play against. And it's main deckable, and it's super strong, and it's one-sided. I really wish Teferi said neither player can cast spells at instant speed. I think that card would be much more fair. Same with 3-mana in our set. But I'm not saying that that's why this deck is bad. I'm just saying that it's one reason this deck is bad because that card is so prevalent, but I'm not lamenting the fact that this deck is bad because everyone plays Teferi. It's just, if you run into a person playing Teferi, you're not going to have a fun time. There is probably a better sorcery to be playing in the 2-mana slot than Eye of Nowhere. It's just the only thing I could think of that kind of contributed to the game plan that we could consistently hit off of Conjuring, as well as, sometimes get our opponent with a gotcha. So if you have ideas for how to improve this deck besides the Savor the Moment Stitch in Time, because that's what makes this deck work, obviously. But if you have other ideas on how to improve this deck, I think fixing whatever's in the Eye of Nowhere slot is the other key portion. I like the As Foretold Ancestral Visions plan. I think that that's completely fair. As Foretold with Savor the Moment is also very strong. Stitch in Time, when it's good, it's great. When it's bad, it's awful. It's just one of those. It's an incredibly high variance card because it has variance built in. And as you saw, like in one of the early matches, like when we won 2 flips, it was like, oh my god, this man's casting Time Walk in Modern. Like he's taking extra turns. And it's crazy. And then we had like 5 or 6 flips were in a row. We missed the flip. Kano, you always pick tails. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Statistically, it's the same. And law of large numbers, if you win a few flips, maybe you should name heads. Sure. But that's gambling, and this is not a gambling channel. This is, at best, a really bad statistics and probability channel. The 5-mana Time Warp obviously is one of the best decks, or one of the best cards in our deck, simply because it lets us untap, it lets us do a bunch of nasty things. And in reality, if you want to play As Foretold turns, don't play this deck. Play an actual reasonable As Foretold list. This is just me memeing to try and make Collected Conjuring good. I think it was Bone Daddy's idea initially, and honestly, with just a little bit more variance swinging our way, this deck would have been totally fine. I am not sure what else I would do to improve this in this moment, but I'm sure I'll think of something. I'm sure I'll come up with something else crazy. But until next time, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. And remember, you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, though the last few have been earlier. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love taking extra turns. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'll see you guys next time. You're all wonderful human beings, and thanks for watching. Bye!